Well, it's a difficult question because we're still in this very dynamic period where the technology is changing the way people access networks, the way people share information. And what differentiates it, I think, is the way that it's shared. Oftentimes you see open journalism using social media like Facebook, like Twitter, like YouTube, as their means of expression, and it doesn't come through established institutions of journalism. And I think that's what that issue of the kind of tools that journalists are using is what makes this interesting, because a lot of those tools are actually private platforms. And the kind of free speech protections that we usually grant journalists are granted largely to institutions who have journalism, who fear most the sort of censorship that comes from governments. But when now you have billions of people using places like Facebook and Twitter to express themselves, they're actually speaking on private platforms. So rather than having protections for free speech that sometimes are afforded to traditional news outlets, they're actually at the mercy of the terms and conditions of those private platforms. So as open journalism continues to evolve and develop, we're going to have to address that issue. Like, how do we treat Facebook when it is a platform for such important public discourse and it decides to censor people, and it has a kind of unsettled regulatory regime about censorship, as do the other private platforms. So this is one of the issues that we should be talking about when we talk about open journalism. Not only what is open journalism, but if it is important, and I think it is, how do we continue to make sure that it flourishes going forward? And when people are using private platforms or using new types of technology, they're using smartphones. What does that mean in terms of, our applications safe? Are devices safe? Are the networks safe? How do we protect free speech in a environment that's largely controlled by private interests?